Talking points. It is time to do our quick hits of the big things going on in the professional wrestling world for this week. Firstly, let's talk about wrestling in 10 years. Another viewer-submitted question. Where do you see professional wrestling in 10 years? Now, I've already had the opportunity to interact with that viewer and say, damn, there's no chance any of us knows what's going to happen in 10 years. I think the best way to gauge that is to look 10 years ago, 1996. One of the best pay-per-views ever, international incident in July of 1996 from the General Motors place in Vancouver, British Columbia. Just look at the big names, the big talents that were around in 96. Some of them are still around. Some of the stuff that was going on in 96. I mean, the wrestling landscape has changed dramatically in 10 years. And you look from 96 to 86 and back to 76. 10 years from now, who knows what's going to be going on in the wrestling world. But we can talk about the progression to that point. So I asked the question of you gentlemen, 10 years from now, where do you see the direction of wrestling heading to be in about 10 years' time?
I'll let you start with it, man.
I think it's going to head to what we're going on now. We're actually going through a transitional phase in professional wrestling. I feel the wellness program, which I spoke about earlier, is regard to performers not being able to take, different drugs, what have you, things of that nature. But I think it's going to go towards kind of what we're kind of seeing in TNA right now. Obviously, the snap moves, the quit moves, but also with more psychology. And I think wrestling in general is kind of going to be more marketed as wrestling theater for what it really is. And
wrestling theater.
Wrestling theater, yes.
Wrestling theater.
Absolutely, that's what I feel. And I think that it's gonna go in a lot of ways. Right now we have Wrestling Society X on MTV where they're going to do different things with their show.
Well, it's a pilot right now.
They're going to edit it now.
A pilot, you racist? Sandy, you haven't heard the joke.
No, I did not.
I'm giving you the punchline.
You gotta say it now.
What do you call a black man flying an airplane?
I have no idea.
A pilot, you racist?
Oh.
It moves on and on from there. What do you call a Mexican flying an airplane?
A pilot.
I'm not even going to say it on air. But anyways, some doozies. Sorry to interrupt. You were saying.
But I think it's going to go to that transition where it's just wrestling theater, and then you have different things like I said, Wrestling Society X. They're going to take different things with Exhibit and the music genre like they did before, and just going to be a little bit more kind of like real world wrestling type thing.
And MTV's producing that. That ain't gonna go anywhere.
But it's good though because wrestling's starting to climb again. I think it's just going to be more of smaller guys, snap moves, focus on athleticism, but then what the WWE is great at usually character development.
Frank,
that's a great question.
viewer submitted.
It's.
I think that one came from Canada, actually.
Alberta, Canada.
You know what you won't see, which was basically wrestling in the 70s and 80s with the
Wrestling.
the mat wrestling. It just you'll never see that again unless you watch independent wrestling where they kind of take that and use it because that's where you can. On television, I think, and I'll agree with you, that it's going to be more theater. Obviously, the women will be involved. The matches, I think, will be somewhat like today, and this is just a guess at my point. They're going to be quick, 5-minute, 6-minute matches where people are going to be flying around like crazy. What I don't think they'll also see are those hardcore matches anymore, because we've been there.
So much fewer of them now.
Been there, done that, and I think because money will be an issue, a lot less people will be willing to say, you know what, I'll do a hardcore match, and my career may be done in a year. Yeah, they want to extend this as long as possible. So I'm going to go with the theater acrobatic route with lots of soap opera, lots of women, of course, and just showmanship more than anything.
Like the Superstar Billy Graham DVD, Superstar Billy Graham.
20 years before his time, if you will.
That's right.
Superstar Billy Graham. The Raw ratings. We've seen Raw over the last 2 weeks score a 4 rating, which is substantial. It's a great rating. Not much higher than what Law and Order gives a couple nights a week on the USA Network. But down from the Edge era of Raw, which lasted about a month. But 4.5s easily each week when it's carrying the strap. Now we see 4s. What needs to be done? Ratings are solid, but what needs to be done aside from the obvious that I just answered? What do y'all feel needs to happen in order to get the downward trend of Raw ratings back to an upward trend? Because the shows, in my opinion, have been good over the last several weeks. I never thought I'd see that much of Vince McMahon's ass, but
it was there. Wow. Go ahead.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that historically, after WrestleMania, the Raw has, they always would go in a different direction. And I think with this, after this happens at WrestleMania, I think we're going in another direction. Like I said, the wellness program implemented, things of that nature. RVD, they're actually kind of getting behind a little bit, being a little bit careful to push them too far. But I think that we're just kind of in that transitional phase now where we're going to start moving on to a different style of wrestling. And I don't think there's that much wrong with the little trampoline that the Spirit Squad's use with that hellacious clothesline with HBK. And it's that real quick style wrestling. And I think it's going to go to that gradually. But it can't, because then it will be just like WCW. That's for the meat. But you got to go gradually.
he visited. He's in Florida right now, and he actually visited the site of the Final Nitro, March 2001, and felt a little sad. Now, when he was there were about the same amount of people that were there for the last show, so I was able to recreate the situation. Sorry, Frank. Go ahead.
No. It's a tough question. What can you do?
These viewers got some good ideas out there.
What can you do? You see a spike once in a while because they really build up.
He said Spike.
Spike TNA Impact, prime time on April 13th after WrestleMania.
You see a spike in the ratings when they can't push an envelope much anymore, but with Lita and Edge.
What held her shirt up Monday night?
Gorgeous.
I don't know.
That's
a great question.
What held her shirt up and apart on Monday? Well, okay.
Something did.
Double-sided tape, maybe something.
Possibly.
Another prime example of HGH.
You can build
human growth hormone.
Yeah, she's probably on that too.
No.
He's saying she is that. Do you need a book or anything? Well, go ahead.
You can build that storyline and people, live sex. Okay. And you got that spike in the ratings.
The intrigue.
But is there enough to keep that consistent? I think what you've seen is that leveling off, which then you can go to your advertisers and say, I can guarantee you a 3.6 to 4.2 each week, which is excellent for cable.
But and you know what's great too is those fours, those peaks were gotten during the speech period when ad rates are set.
Yeah.
So no matter what the show's getting now, it matters what you get in February, May, and November, which is when the sweep period is.
But you literally can't get a consistent. You'll never see the 7s and the 8s like we did. That will never happen. But can you get
Impact Primetime, TNA Wrestling?
What could bring it up is some type of celebrity to show up where you can get another network to say. I talked about this about WrestleMania. Having someone that you've also seen on ESPN, being there. Like if they were able to snag Dan Patrick to do announcing a match or something like that, where you can get the dual promotion, that may happen. But again, to keep that up to the 5s and 6 consistently, it's never going to happen. Just that spike once in a while. But you're hoping, at least WWE was hoping, that once you saw Vince McMahon's rear end, you'd see something like 4.2, 4.3.
You may have thought that, but Captain, I did not think that. They were showing some clips of previous people that kissed his Batissimo, but why did they show the clip when Vince McMahon kissed Sable's Batissimo?
Is that Italian?
Show that. I'd like to see that. There's a little...
But Danny Romalotti is.
Oh, it says king sausage. Okay.
I'm lost and black. You were saying?
But I mean,
well, hasn't it been there, done that with the
But it is elite when the Kiss by Petunia Club comes back, because it's been a long time since we've seen it. And Vince, he does it well. And I can't believe we're talking about this in depth as we are.
But it did drag out.
It's a good segment. It wasn't the highest rated segment on Raw.
No.
It didn't have that spike in the ratings as people might have expected or as it had before. Because remember, when Regal kissed his tail, that was one of the highest ratings they had seen. And that was the first time it happened. JR did it. They absolutely humiliated him. And now...
now the question is, did Marty Jannetty get his contract?
Marty Jannetty.
No, here's what's going to happen. He's going to wrestle on Raw for the next several weeks and then be on Heat on WWE.com for the several weeks after that, and then we'll find out that he actually got a one-year contract. Because why not?
He did enough.
Yeah. I'm very happy for Marty Jannetty, actually. That's pretty exciting, because I always liked Marty Jannetty. I'm not
He
sure.
just better stay away from the windows.
The windows.
You know, the plate glass windows.
I don't know. I liked Marty Jannetty. I thought he always has great talent. I think just Shawn Michaels is very smart in the PR department. Shawn Michaels is great talent too, of course. But I always like Marty Jannetty. I'm very happy that he's in there. And not to mention the fact when Marty Jannetty eventually turns on Shawn Michaels, there'll be some great stellar matches from those two men.
Who the hell's gonna care? When Marty Jannetty turns on Shawn Michaels, who cares?
It's not gonna. That's a
Oh no, it ain't '87 no more.
That's maybe a Raw 1 week kind of thing. But if they would put
like
that
the
on a
reformulation of DX.
they put that on a
Less than
pay-per-view,
2 hours.
people are gonna scream.
TNA, total nonstop action, as Danny's alluded to several times in this segment. April 13th is the day, Thursday nights, 8 o'clock p.m., I believe, Eastern, is when TNA will go prime time. Positioning themselves greatly to do so, and I believe the time is right. They're averaging a .8 rating on their Saturday night showings, which is 57% higher than what Velocity was getting. Now, keep in mind, this is TNA's only and major, well, not only because they still have the Explosion syndicated show, but this is their major show each week. This is their Raw, if you will. Averaging .8, which is about 1.05 million viewers a week, doing good in the replays, bringing in the key demographic, beating Velocity, like I said, significantly, over half of the viewers, multiplying that by over half of the viewers of Velocity. TNA, when they move to prime time up against nothing, how is it gonna? What's it gonna pan out as? SmackDown's bringing in about a 3.6, which in broadcast terms is probably about that many viewers. The third night, if you will, of professional wrestling now in prime time isn't going to deliver.
It's going to take time for that to deliver, but I think prime time is definitely a good example. When Raw actually was preempted Monday night, had to go on Thursday night, they actually did maintain a decent rating there.
Right.
I think once
And it wasn't Thursday Raw, Thursday Live.
yes, it was
Thursday Raw. Thursday taped.
But I mean, with that being said, with them being able to get the ratings on a different night, I think it's just a matter of time for TNA to easily get 2s, and when they get 3s, that's just a matter of time and programming and such, and the development of all of the characters.
TNA, in my opinion, puts on a better wrestling product than WWE does. They can't tell a story as good as WWE does, and they can't produce a show as good as WWE does. It will still be an hour. It will still be a 1 hour program, which means
Was it going to be 2 hours?
at this point it's 1 hour.
Okay.
They want to do what they've been doing. It's still going to be a taped show. They're still going to tape every 2 weeks. So they're not changing anything except the broadcast date at this time. Now, do I expect it to be? They're in a great position to go live every week. They really are. Granted, there's some additional costs, but they don't travel. They don't move. So they're in a great position to go live every week. But will the fans receive the six-sided ring on a broader basis? Will the fans receive the talent in TNA? And the reason I almost said ECW was because the question is, will it flounder in the same region of viewers or same number of fans as ECW did? ECW experienced growth when they went to TNN, but ECW peaked and stayed and never experienced growth beyond
Here's
that.
the big difference, though, Damien, is now they actually have Spike TV behind them. They have. A
Well,
network
initially,
behind them.
the National Network and the Nashville Network was behind ECW initially.
Until they got WWE program. But right now, we have a different niche. They're carving a different niche audience. They got the Spike TV as UFC and now TNA Wrestling as well. It's a different niche audience that they're trying to carve.
Yep.
And I think with them, they're definitely behind it by now giving them prime time. And as ratings show and ratings improve, it's just going to be a matter of time before...
And they don't have to look at the name TNA, Total Nonstop Action.
That's what that means.
NWA champion Christian Cage. Everyone knows Christian.
With ECW, it was extreme.
And that was their goal.
And they reached it. And then when it peaked, that was done. With TNA, you can still model nonstop action.
X Division style matches.
So you can keep the cruiserweights. You can keep going in that direction. You don't have to be extreme. You can there's a climb with that. And I've said this many times, the best thing to do is just be your own identity and make it work. Don't come on the air and say, "Hey, Vince McMahon, you're gonna lose." They'll swat you like
Carve.
The best thing to do is be your own identity. Keep that six-sided ring as goofy as it looks, and you'll build your audience. And take your time.
Let me ask you a question, Frank. Have you ever seen?
No, you can't ask me a question.
You just did, actually.
well,
That's the question.
hold the phone. Have you ever seen the Canadian Destroyer, Petey Williams? Did you ever see his move? The
Apparently you
Canadian
don't watch
Destroyer.
this show, because I will say again that the Canadian Destroyer is the single greatest finishing maneuver in the history of professional wrestling.
Where did you see that
outstanding.
performer? Where did you see that performer? David?
Petey Williams?
Yeah, was he in what? What wrestling program?
TNA.
On network?
TNA.
On
Spike TV.
exactly, and that is going to sell it. If you like it, and you like it, gentlemen, there's a lot more other people that are going to like that X Division style matchups, hard hitting, quick moves, swift.
They also have to have some very good marketing.
They've got to tell a story. Wrestling will only go so far in today's day and age.
Right.
WWE, WCW has sculpted today's wrestling fan. What I mean by that is today's wrestling fan is looking for the kiss my ass segments and things of that nature. That's what today's wrestling fan, they want a complete package, if you will. When you go to Raw, you're getting rock concert, you're getting wrestling, you're getting soap opera all in one. TNA can deliver the wrestling. At this point, they're not as good delivering the other aspects of it, and whether they want to admit it or not, they have to do that. Remember when TNA first came out? No women, no swearing. It was all going to be about family wrestling. And they went with their weekly pay-per-views, and all of a sudden, there were the divas of TNA and the Heartbreakers, or whatever they're called.
TNA girls.
Yeah, so, and now, what is TNA? Another wrestling organization.
Right. Here's their good thing. They can go to Spike and their advertisers and say, we can deliver you this range a week. And we'll promise that to our advertisers for this first year. And then they'll want to see, obviously, more of an improvement. But they can take their time with this and say, you want a 0.8? We'll deliver that. You want a 1.2? We'll deliver it. You know, maybe putting a championship match or something to gain an extra 200,000 viewers or something like that.
Now, isn't the TNA wrestling that's going to be on Spike TV in April, Thursday nights prime time? Isn't that going to be leading up to the UFC events, correct?
It'll be the lead-in for the UFC.
Live?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if it'll be live, but it'll be the next Ultimate Fighter.
This is pretty interesting because there's a few actually bars and establishments like that actually play this UFC stuff because the audiences and such. And for TNA wrestling to be on before that, preceding the UFC, I think that once people start watching it, it's going to get word of mouth, and I think
You can cross-promote also. The obviously UFC audience, where they can cross-promote with each other. And you can see a wrestler, make an appearance on UFC and then vice versa.
Yeah.
Do you dance, Danny?
I do dance.
Do a little two-step?
No, I do. I did good stuff. I actually did ballroom dancing in 2002.
Funny you should say that. Stacy Keibler, who placed third in the Dancing with the Stars ABC.
There's no way Jerry Rice was better than her. I'm sorry. No way. It's NFL fans.
Did you vote?
Stacy Keibler. Mama voted. My mom voted.
Stacy Keibler has hinted at the fact that she will probably not be renewing her contract with WWE. A lot of offers are on the table. A lot of publicity has gone her way from this Dancing with the Stars thing. Now, where does WWE sit with that whole thing? What should they do? What will they do, Frank?
Well, they can use this to their advantage and use Stacy as they can. She's not a good wrestler, but obviously she's there for eye candy. But
H.L.A. or
HG, human growth hormones, beautiful legs. Come on, gorgeous.
Yeah.
There's some TNA.
But she's got
legs.
She knows how to
She
use
knows
it.
how to use them.
Oh,
You got me before I did.
we're on the same page.
She's got all the control now. She could say, "Yeah, I'll make 6 appearances a year."
But how beautiful is this, though, Frank? When we have the cross promotion with whatever her project is, similar to that of The Rock.
And keep in mind, and I was thinking about that, and that's a good point, is, Rock Films, who's still listed as a producer?
This is Kenny McMahon.
I mean, I think that when you pepper all these WWE stars out and amongst the mainstream, you get that brand recognition.
And you push it.
Because The Rock is still the wrestler, and he's not the movie star. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Rowdy Piper, when he was in movies and doing good, was still WWF's Roddy Piper. But when people saw his movies, whether they were wrestling involved or not, they thought at least about them.
And if her agent does this the right way, when it's, she may have a movie out in her, come on WWE television that couple of weeks, whatever, promote your movie. You get people to watch. You know, the extra people that want to watch her. She can do this the right way. It would make total sense not for her to sign a year contract where she's on the road again. Her career there's everything's the potential is there, and she's
maybe she'll end up on the Surreal Life. The Hall of Fame ceremony is coming up in just under a month. Mean Gene Okerlund is the latest inductee announced, which is great, tutti frutti. Leaves a very big question out there, folks. There are seemingly three candidates to host the show. First of which being Michael Cole, who, quite frankly, is the best commentator out there in wrestling today. Next is Joey Styles, who, quite frankly, has disappointed thus far, only because of what he is being allowed to do and what he is not being allowed to do. And the third option is Jim Ross. Who should it be?
Who should it be? Who will it be? These
That's
are
the question.
two questions. Who should it be? Jim Ross will certainly be a surprise. Certainly be a surprise. I would say that would be a phenomenal return for Jim Ross for that. That's
Francis.
Yeah, just for hosting that event would make the most sense. Joey Styles is a little bit too new as far as WWE, and Michael Cole.
Todd Pettingill hosted it a couple of years ago.
Todd Pettingill. Isn't that Michael Cole?
Petting Zoo, as Jim Cornette called it.
It's, and I guess you could use Michael Cole being the second viable option.
Well, but I'm sorry, I'll let you talk.
But to me, it would make sense to have Jim Ross. But that's just.
Got fired 3 times, but anyways, they called me back.
But what about Bret the Hitman Hart, Canadian superstar from Calgary, dramatic pause, Alberta, Canada, being inducted in the Hall of Fame? This is huge, gentlemen.
Right. Michael Cole, if he comes out there and does it all, he'll talk about is how much SmackDown's better than Raw, which
that'd
is
be
real
cool.
old after
In
a
this
while.
case, you break character when you're doing the Hall of Fame.
Class,
You have to.
dignity, poise.
If
You need a new Mean Gene. Who's your new Mean Gene? I mean, not just for Hall of Fame, but for, how great was it, or how great will it be, because I'm sure we'll see it at WrestleMania probably, and it was done just when Hogan made the announcement, made the challenge to Steve Austin for WrestleMania, which, we haven't heard about again. But remember, Mean Gene pops up out of nowhere to do the interview. Hogan comes out, well, something, Mean Gene,
but there was a connection.
that's only
there.
going to last for so long, Gene's only going to be around for so long. You need a new Mean Gene. Who's the next person in line, if you will, to be that historian, if you will? It's Jim Ross.
Yeah,
They got to do some redemption. I mean, they really, 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 really have got to redeem themselves with the way that they handled Jim Ross's departure from WWE.
Well, you knew, like when Howard Finkel was doing a match.
And where's he?
He's retired, maybe now. Who knows? Or just he was the oldest at one point employee.
I don't know if you know this, but I am the longest employee.
The question, I guess, was.
Whoa! Where are you going there?
The question was. What? Now I'm confused.
Go ahead.
About Philippines. Yeah, for their safety, for the main thing, you don't want to, cause any concern at an airport where, people are going to be arrested. And then we see another Vader where, he could
Whoosh, 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 whoosh.
That's it's thankfully nothing happened. I guess that was the good thing. Is the last thing that WWE needed was bad publicity.
WrestleMania so far. JBL versus Benoit has been announced for the United States Championship.
The wrestling god? That is JBL is a wrestling god. You'll agree with me, Damien, right?
Oh, he is in the top 5.
In the
He
top
is in
five.
the top 5
Of what?
of wrestlers out there today, in my opinion. Performers.
Of a higher level mediocrity?
Francis, how about that match?
Should be outstanding in my opinion, and again the fans probably want it, and I think it'll work.
Money in the Bank ladder match. RVD Flair and Shelton Benjamin.
Fabulous match. Fabulous. It's gonna be exciting. There's some really good athletes there. Young, fresh meat.
Were you surprised that
Yes.
Carlito? I thought for sure.
I thought it was brilliant.
I thought for sure Carlito was going to win.
Which is
that
why he
match.
didn't. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Good job, WWE. I think that was brilliant to have him lose that match. I think he'll still get added to it, but that was brilliant.
Flair on WrestleMania, another payday.
It's the money.
That's Talking Points. On the website, sportsonline.com, and